I'm also doing well. First, let's start with the meeting you had yesterday. What was the discussion about?
Thank you very much. Yes, so yesterday we met the Minister of Health, the Director General of Ghana Health Service, and also we proceeded to the Fair Wages and Hours Commission to meet the CEO. Yes, so the conversation centered on how we can understand or make the ministry and the other stakeholders understand the demands on the document and make them understand that these are things that they can do. The fact is that the things we are demanding for are not things that cannot be done. The only challenge is the roadmap for the implementation. And if you look at the quantification they did, it appears that there is some miscommunication. And so the figures that they put out there that they would need to be able to implement may not actually be the case because most of the things are being implemented already. And so we believe that based on the conversations we've had, it appears to have been some miscommunication or misunderstanding of the whole issue. And so after explanations and then trying to map out the items by items, they have come to understand that, okay, these are things that can be done without breaking the spine of the economy as they were thinking. And so we have made good progress yesterday. And we believe that in the coming days, the minister will make announcements on what exactly they can do for us.
So, okay, and for the sake of clarification again, you're saying that you realize that there were some misconceptions about how much it will cost to implement the COS.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you sought to clarify.
Yes, please.
And
So
after,
see,
okay,
that would have been done if our brothers and sisters had come back to engage the ministry for them to better understand the issues and see how they can help sort it out.
and so based on the conversations you had, how much progress do you think you have made has been made by yesterday's meeting?
How much progress?
How much progress do
Yes,
you?
very, very, very good progress. I mean, the ministry was very glad that we met them because you realize that no, the impression was different. Okay, and so they said that no, these are things that can be done. So just they just have to go ahead and do something about it. And the fact of the matter is that we are no more talking about negotiations, about implementation, which has to do with the minister putting the paper on the document and letting the Minister of Finance know, and then they get it sorted out. And so yeah, the progress was massive, and the ministry was happy that we actually met them to explain some of these things.
In the meantime, your union is not on strike, are you?
No, we are not. We are not on strike.
How many members do you have?
Yeah, so we have over 32,000 members across the country. This may not be enough to, show that the pressure that comes to our healthcare facilities, but I believe that with some effort we can be able to do something. Not be able, maybe 100% no, but we can be able to do something.
So far, your members can feel the pressure.
Yeah, they can. In fact, it's not been easy, and we are grateful to them for doing this over the period. In fact, it's not been easy. We've had so much pressure from them for us to join the strike, but we maintained that no, we need to dialogue and get these things done because these things can be done. I mean, we lose lives. What happens to them if we get back? And so, yes, they are actually under immense pressure, but we are hopeful that things will turn out to our favor very soon.
Clearly, they are not the only ones under pressure. They are also putting you under pressure for you to join your colleagues.
Yes. Because they feel that they are suffering, work that's supposed to be done by 5 people is being done by 2 or less and all that. And so you will realize that as human as they are, they will definitely demand that we do something about it, especially when the minister came out the last time to make some pronouncement. They felt it didn't go down well. Unfortunately, our colleagues at the other side have kept putting out misconceptions out there on daily basis. In fact, the issue of the 2026 implementation was a suggestion that was on the table. And when they finished the conversation with them, they were supposed to go back and then look at it and come back to the table again. And when they got out, they decided to write it out. When the people that they sent to the table didn't have the right to make decisions. And so they were supposed to consult their secretary and president and get back. But when they stepped out of the meeting, they decided to write out everything and put it out as though that was the conclusion made by the ministry. And so the misconceptions out there is making the work very difficult. And it was intentional, actually, to frustrate the system.
You are saying the 2026 implementation date that the GRNM is holding on to and insisting that because of that they will not return to strike.
Yes.
You are saying
Yes.
it's part of the proposals on the table. It's not a definite stance of the
Exactly.
government.
That is why we negotiate anyway. So they sat down, and that was some of the proposals that were made. Okay, so that they could go consider the proposals and get back. And so if you get out of the meeting without even having consulted your leadership, and then you put some of these things out there, it paints a very gloomy picture of the situation and makes it very difficult to control the emotions of the people that we are serving. So, and like I said, it was calculated to get our members agitated, to feel that the ministry is not willing to implement, and yet we are asking them to be at post. And it has been hectic for us over the period.
Interesting. So as we speak, you as nurses are not negotiating with a united front?
Well, the united front is easy to achieve if we all understand that this is supposed to be done using some strategies to get the ministry to implement. In fact, like I've always maintained, these things we are asking for are not new things, okay? And we have used the same approach over the period, but yet it did not work. 2020, we went on strike, and the things that were on the condition of service were not implemented. Okay, so the question is, why was it not implemented 5 years ago, even though it was bargained for and approved? The reason is that the approach is not working, even though we went on strike. So do we continue doing the same thing and expect a different result? No. So that the strike is not the issue, but the understanding of the entirety of the document to get the people to implement is what matters. So if we keep doing this every day, we will not grow, okay? Because the thing has to be implemented for us to move from there. If we negotiate for 10% today and it's implemented, tomorrow we can add to it to become 20%. But if we negotiate 10% cannot be implemented, how do you even increase it again? So our position is just simple. Let's push for the implementation of all the things that we have negotiated for and have not been implemented, so that we can grow from there. Okay, let's not keep putting dust in the eyes of the people that they have negotiated for them. The things are sitting on the papers and not reflecting in our pockets. So let's get all of these things implemented, so that from there, the clear roadmap is there. Next time when we increase the percentage of whatever we have on there, it becomes easy for them to implement.
And that's a strategy, as I see, from you. But it seems the strategy is not being bought by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Do the other three associations agree with you that is the way to go?
Clearly, they agree with us because they understand the issue. And it is not everything we can say or put out there. It is this same position they have taken that has led us to this level. Their disregard to other unions have actually led us to where we are today. Okay, they felt that because we hold a collective bargaining certificate, we can do everything we want to do without the consultation of other unions. Knowledge is not, nobody has a monopoly over knowledge. And so you don't think that you know it all. And you can see they are posturing on media platforms all over the place as though they have all the knowledge in the world to do some of these things. The revelations we had yesterday at the ministry will shock you. And these are not things you would want to see. But, I mean, it's just okay for us to, come down to the level of the people and explain to them that these things can be done. But it depends on how. We cannot be on strike forever. So we should be able to understand that we need to negotiate. We need to consult. We need to, discuss so that we can come to an amicable resolution of the matter. But if we have one person who is taking a very intransigent position, doesn't want to shift grounds, and then you are on TV and saying that we have seen dead bodies before, we don't care whatever happens, I mean, it doesn't actually gel well with the people we are serving.
They say they have 95,000 members. They have the majority of the numbers on their side. So
Is that the only reason why we cannot drink water and drink cup? I mean, this membership can switch if members understand what we are doing. And so they shouldn't think that they have monopoly over all the nurses and midwives in the country. The 32,000 plus members that we have were once members of that union. Only a few people were newly posted and they are part of us. So there's a possibility that things can change. Okay, let's not pretend that we own the nurses and midwives in the country when people join the union voluntarily. You understand? So, I mean, some of these decisions, people may not understand. It is not everything we can say. So, nurses and midwives may not really understand what is going on. For them, it is condition of service that's supposed to be implemented and it's not being implemented. But there is more under the table than we are seeing on the media platforms and all that.
more under the table.
Yeah.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
So, like I said, there's so much explanation to some of the positions that others are taking than we are seeing. Okay, like I said, if you negotiate since 2020 and the things are still on the books, have not been implemented, and you haven't said anything about it for the past 5 years, and you have imported the same things from the 2022 document to 2024, and all of a sudden you want all of these things to be implemented at the same time, it paints a different picture of the situation. And when you also know that the roadmap for the implementation is not there. In fact, the General Secretary confirmed that on Joy News after the press briefing by the ministry the last time that if it's about the implementation roadmap, they are willing to come and sit down and then judge with the ministry. And that's what we have been seeing all this while, that the implementation roadmap is not there. Let's sit down and get it done. How long are we going to be on strike? The fact is that should the ministry say that we are implementing these things today, not all the items on that document can be implemented at the same time because most of them will require some level of data collection. Some can need to get some understanding of how we can classify them, okay, so that we can understand how to implement it. For instance, the issue of understaffing allowance, rural allowance. Where are we classifying as rural areas? Where are we classifying as understaffing? In fact, as we are speaking, Ghana is doing better in terms of nurse to patient ratio, as against the WHO standard of one nurse to 1,000 patients. We are doing about one nurse to 600 patients. So how do you classify understaffing? So these are things we need to clarify so that the implementation becomes easy. So the media charade we are playing, the whole picture we are painting that we are bulldozing our way through the whole thing is not the way to go, honestly. It is about time we reduce the amount of strength we use to do this thing and use knowledge and wisdom to handle the thing. The most powerful military in the world are not the ones that have the physical strength, but the ones that have the technical know-how to combat. Okay? So this attitude of, we will not budge to it doesn't actually help anybody. The junior ones who are striking with them, the question, if you ask them today, what exactly is in the calling of service for you? They don't even know. They don't even know. So it's difficult to understand the position some people are taking. And they have actually been able to whip up a majority of these young ones to follow them, even when they don't even know what exactly is happening in the condition of service. And most of them, once we explain to them, they understand that, then we don't need to, go this tangent.
But let me get some clarity before I come to the last question I wanted to ask you. The conditions of service.
Yeah.
This is new conditions of service.
Okay.
I'm asking whether this is new.
New. Well, it's a. In terms of the year it has been signed, I would say new, but the items there are not new.
Okay. So you've always operated under a condition of service. This is just a new one.
Yes, in terms of the signing of the document,
Okay.
It's a new one signed last year in May. Yes.
Okay.
But the items in there are not new.
Some of them are not new. They are things that you have negotiated for but was never implemented.
Yes.
Okay.
And we just imported them here. And then...
Give me an idea of one.
One of them is the book and research allowance for health tutors. It was part of the 2020 agreement. The medical care that they said that when NHS is unable to care or take care of the bills, the system pays for it. In 2020, it was 50%, and then they made it 100% in the current document. Okay, the fuel allowance we're talking about was part of the 2020, and that one has been implemented. The only difference to be done is that they have increased the cost of a liter. I think the 2021 is about the liter was 9 cities or so. Now it's about 10 cities something per square. So the difference there is just about 1 city something. So which means that if they're going to implement, the only difference will be about 1 city, because that one is already being paid on monthly basis. The uniform allowance was 400 cities in 2020. That have been implemented. Now it is 1,000 cities. So the difference is 600. So when the government is going to pay anything, it's about the 600 difference. So it means that the 1,000 cities is not the entire 1,000 that will be paying, but 400 is being paid already, which is paid only yearly, once a year. So it means that when they're going to pay, it's now going to be 1,000 cities once a year. Okay, and then the issue of funeral grants, they are all part of the 2020 agreement. They were all part of the 2020 agreement. The kilometric allowances, the whatever, almost all the things were part of the 2020 agreement that we have brought back to 2024. So the differences are not. That's why I'm saying that there was a misconception. You realize that if they are going to pay the fuel allowance, the difference that they will pay on top of that is just about 1 something percent, because they're already paying that, so that is already budgeted for.
Okay.
I hope you understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fuel allowance. Every year, last year, for instance, they paid that instead of paying us 1,000, they paid 400, which means that they have an arrears of 600 to pay.
Okay.
And this is paid September every year. So it means that this September, when they're going to pay us the uniform allowance, they're supposed to pay 1,600. Going forward, it will now be 1,000 cities every year. You understand? Okay. Even the 13th month's salary, that one, it is not even the government that will pay. It's supposed to be paid by the facility where you are working. And our concern is that how many facilities in this country can pay full salary of a nurse at the end of the year? So that has to be looked at, because some facilities are not even generating IGF that can buy them consumables. So how do we get that done? So we are even going to propose that if it's possible that facilities can pay this quarterly or even monthly, they divide the amount. Assuming my salary is 2,000, they divide it by 12, so that every month they can pay small, so at the end of the year they would have done payment. Because if you want to go to the end of the year to pay all the 2,000 multiplied by the number of nurses in the facility, it becomes difficult to pay. Okay, so the issues are there. The issue of transfer grants is not supposed to be paid by government directly. The facility that is transferring you is the one supposed to pay these monies. So that's why I said that the understanding of the issue was problematic. So the figures that may have been out there that these amounts will be required to implement these things may not be true in entirety. Okay. And so this is the issue. And even the payment for our medical bills, the question is, how is it going to be done? Is it that when I go to the hospital and then I am done, I will present the receipt to the healthcare facility to pay me, or I have to send it to contract to pay? How? These issues have not been resolved. So we are on strike for how long before the ministry will get to understand? And as we speak, these people are not even in the country. When you ask them to represent, the same people who cannot make decisions. So it becomes difficult to go around the entire thing.
I see. Now, let me conclude with this. You said there were some things that the minister said that your members were not happy with. What were those?
Yeah, so like saying that the budget has not taken care of, or the budgetary allocations have not taken care of our demands and all that. And so it appears as if they didn't care for us, we were not important, and so they didn't put us in the budget. Okay, and mind you, before the first quarter budget, the case was still in court. And so they couldn't have added it to the budget, because by then there was not a determination of the matter when the other union took them to court. So the first quarter budget was not captured. So the expectation was that since we finished the matter in January, the other budget that was read by the NDC should have captured that. So if you come out to say some of those things, the people become agitated, thinking that you don't just care for them, and so it becomes a problem for the union leaders to handle.
I see. And did you indicate this to the minister when you met him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you know, and because of the way they also understood the thing, thinking that we are going to pay all these amounts? Because the explanation was not there. That is what we are telling our colleagues, that there's something missing. The people must understand what they have come to receive, okay, before they can go ahead and implement. If the explanation is not there, it becomes difficult to go about it. So let's rather sit down and explain these things to the people. When I told you that the fuel allowance is not going to be the entire money, didn't it make sense?
Yeah.
That they are going to, the difference is just about once, and the people who are taking this fuel allowance, it's not all the nurses and midwives in the country. It started from principal nursing officer. And how many of these people do we have in the country anyway? Okay, these people may not be up to even 10,000, I am not sure. So the figures are not actually true.
Okay.
Because the people who are supposed to explain these things to them have decided to take a position that clouds their sense of reasoning, and so they are not willing to sit down and explain anything. The slightest thing, they are angry and they are all over the place.
John, as always, a pleasure talking to you, and we thank you and extend our gratitude to your members who've decided to stay and still care for the public while those negotiations continue. We really do appreciate it. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. John AGBENYEAVU is PRO, Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives, Ghana. They've decided to stay at post and have the negotiations. Like I have said, these were negotiated and agreed with the government. So the concerns are legitimate. The approach is what we are all worried about. Okay, the concerns are legitimate. I'm a worker too. I work too. So conditions of service, when they improve, Charlie, it be good. As a day, I think I deserve clothing allowance. But you know they give me clothing allowance.
Oh, baby, my clothing allowance. Yeah, my risk allowance. Because okay. Your air condition musa. And you also risk allowance. Yeah, my yeah.
No, but this is not about your concept. Because this the man has started listing the food so you want improved conditions of service? Hey, it's a radiation allowance all for the inside. Anyway, struggling with vision problems or headaches. If you have vision problems or headaches, Third Eye Care and Vision Center is at post. Yes, they are at post. They offer comprehensive eye solutions from new glasses to advanced diagnostics. Their skill optometries and modern technology ensure top-notch care for all ages. No matter how old you are, it has to do with your eyes and headaches, they have you covered. In addition to the extensive eyewear offerings, Third Eye Care also specializes in advanced diagnostic tests such as eye pressure checking, fundus photography, and OCT and VFT scanning. As a DVLA accredited eye examination center, do trust Third Eye Care for accurate and reliable assessment. You can find them at Northreach. They are on the same premises with Sunny FM, Airport Residential Area. They are opposite the Mirage Residence near Association International School.